Okay. So we did the Shiksha Valli, Taittiriya Upanishad, the first Valli. Finished it in the last class. And today we are all set to move to the second Valli of it, which is the ब्रह्मानंद वल्ली. So तैत्तिरीय उपनिषद को जैसा हमने पहले भी कहा था 3 भागों में विभाजित किया है. पहला शिक्षावल्ली है, दूसरा ब्रह्मानंद वल्ली है और तीसरा भृगुवल्ली है. और आज हम लोग ब्रह्मानंद वल्ली में प्रवेश करेंगे. पंचकोश का जो पूरा कॉन्सेप्ट है, जो पूरी समझ है, वो हमको यहीं पर मिलती है. इनफैक्ट शंकराचार्य ने तत्वबोध में पंचकोश के ऊपर और जो विश्व की उत्पत्ति है उसके विषय में भी लिखा है, और वो हम आज देखेंगे. We shall look at that. So today I intend to do the Shanti part and the first Anuvak, but to just give you an overview, इस पाठ में 10 ब्रह्मानंद वाली में 10 अनुवाक हैं. इसको 10 पाठ कह लीजिए, 10 भाग कह लीजिए. जो पहला है वो शांति पाठ से शुरुआत है, जैसा हमेशा होता है. उसके पश्चात हम देखेंगे कि पूरे उपनिषद का एक क्रक्स मिलेगा हमें, और जो क्रिएशन की प्रक्रिया है, उत्पत्ति की प्रक्रिया है, जो ब्रह्मांड की संरचना की प्रक्रिया है, उसके ऊपर काफी कुछ बहुत सुंदर है. वो कैसे आया है, कहाँ से आया है, वो सब उसके ऊपर है. तो दैट इज व्हाट वी विल सी टुडे. इसके बाद चैप्टर अनुवाक 2 के आगे से पंचकोश शुरू होते हैं. तो दूसरे में अन्नमय कोश है और प्राणमय कोश है. तीसरे में तीसरा मनोमय कोश है. उसके बाद विज्ञानमय कोश है, फिर आनंदमय कोश है. उसके पश्चात उभय प्रतिष्ठा है. अनुवाक 9 में 8 में इंक्वायरी है इनटू द नोशन ऑफ ब्रह्मानंद. और उसके बाद हम लोग कंक्लूजन देखेंगे जो अनुवाक 9 में है. तो 9 अनुवाकों का ये पाठ है, पर बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है. इसके कुछ कॉन्सेप्ट्स जो हैं, खास करके पंचकोश के कॉन्सेप्ट्स आपको कई जगह सुनने के लिए मिलेंगे, और ऋषि ने यहीं पर बताया है शिष्यों को. तो लेट अस गेट इनटू ब्रह्मानंद वल्ली with this basic information and discover more, because I am also studying this Upanishad. I don't remember I've studied it before or not, so it's an interesting read for me also. In fact, मैं ये कहूंगी कि बहुत वैसा ही है जैसा उपनिषदों में होता है. सब कुछ फॉर्मूला के जैसा है, क्रिप्टिक है, बहुत एक्सपोज्ड नहीं है, डायरेक्ट नहीं है, बहुत इनडायरेक्ट है. और यदि हम श्लोकों के साथ नहीं रहते हैं तो अर्थ से चूक जाएंगे, और जो स्टैंडर्ड अर्थ हम लोग फिर निकालेंगे वो वही सामाजिक होगा. जबकि उपनिषदों का जो कार्य है वो है हमें ब्रह्म तक ले जाना. तो हर चीज, हर बात, हर वस्तु ब्रह्म की दृष्टि से ही यदि देखी जाए, सत्य की दृष्टि से ही यदि देखी जाए, तो उपनिषदों का हमें कुछ लाभ मिल सकता है. ठीक है. इसमें जो शांति पाठ है आप लोगों ने सुना होगा, बहुत बहुत ज्यादा प्रचलित है. इसको बोलते हैं, जिन्हें याद होगा वो बोल सकते हैं, सहना भवतु. ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ओम शांति शांति शांति. सहनौ अवतु जो इसका आरंभ है, और ये जो संस्कृत पढ़ते हैं वो समझानेंगे कि संस्कृत में एक वचन, द्विवचन और बहुवचन होता है. तो ये जो है ये द्विवचन के लिए प्रयुक्त है. नौ अवतु जो है वो द्विवचन के लिए प्रयुक्त होता है. तो जाहिर सी बात है कि दो लोगों के बीच की वार्ता हो रही है और प्रार्थना जो है वो दो लोग एक दूसरे के लिए कर रहे हैं, और ये दोनों कौन है? सहज ही ज्ञात है कि शिष्य है और शिक्षक है। तो शिष्य और शिक्षक ये दोनों प्रार्थना करते हैं कि कृपया हमें प्रोटेक्शन दें, प्लीज प्रोटेक्ट बोथ ऑफ अस। तो जैसा हमने पहले भी शांति पाठों में देखा है, प्रोटेक्शन क्यों चाहिए? प्रोटेक्शन क्यों चाहिए?
Because there are a lot of other things that can happen which can distract us from what we are trying to do.
एब्सोल्युटली, एब्सोल्युटली। तो प्रोटेक्शन चाहिए कि सत्य जो इतना सहज नहीं है, जो इतना स्थूल नहीं है, इट्स वेरी सटल। व्हेन वी आर wanting to be in that, understand that, look at everything, the entire life in its light, we may be protected while doing so, and may the other elements do not come and disturb us or destroy our study. Then comes Sahanau Bhunaktu, which is together we may benefit from this study. Bhunaktu comes from Bhuj root, which means to enjoy. So what is that you would like to enjoy? The teacher and the disciple would like to actually enjoy that, to live in that wherein the ego is dissolved, wherein you forget yourself, wherein this worldly stuff are no more so important, and you live in bliss. So that is what they want to enjoy. Sahaviryam karvavahai, make us both strong and vigorous so that we can apply ourselves to this study. So from the physical level and from the mental level, मानसिक और शारीरिक दोनों रूपों से हमारे इस पठन पाठन में, इस पूरी बोध प्रक्रिया में किसी प्रकार की बाधा ना आए। तेजस्विना वधितमस्तु, may our Tejasvi is that, you understand that. May our study be vigorous, not half-hearted or indifferent. So हमारे पूरे प्रक्रिया में, बोध प्रक्रिया में तेजस हो, एक आभा हो, लाइट हो, एंथुजियाज्म हो। मां विद्विषावहे, किसी भी प्रकार का द्वेष हमारे बीच में उत्पन्न ना हो। So the relationship between the teacher and the student, that remains as sweet and cordial as it is, and their love and respect for each other only should progress. Because if this is not so, then the study cannot happen. Without that love for the teacher, without that respect for the teacher, and without that love and respect for this entire study, this study cannot take place. And hence the prayer, Ma Vidvishavahe, may there be no enmity, no dvesha between us while we are doing the study. So this is the Shanti part. Now we move to the first Anuvaka. And it is a long one, so we will look at each of the Rik one by one. Om Brahma with apnoti param. That's the first line. Tadesha bhyukta satyam jnanam anantam brahma yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyuman सोष्णुते सर्वान कामान सह ब्रह्मणा विपश्चितेति. So let's pick up the first one. It says ब्रह्म विद आपनोति परम. ब्रह्म की विद्या को पाते ही आप परम को पा लेते हैं. In I think Mundaka Upanishad it says Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. The moment I know Brahma, I become Brahma. And this is so beautiful. When I know Brahma here, there is nothing like a subject that when I know science, I know this. When I know this, I know that. No. Here, when you know it, you become that. And that is very, very beautiful. So, in the path of knowledge, in the path of jnana, जहां पर हम नेति नेति से आगे बढ़ते हैं, that how do I know ब्रह्म? तो जो मार्ग दिखाया गया है वो है कि आप पहले उसे पहचाने जो आप नहीं हैं, because there is a lot that we have defined ourselves as, and with all those identities and all those definitions, we cannot really know that Brahma Rupa of us. Then that will just be some knowledge to have fun of, the spiritual shopping thing, which does not hold any meaning for us. Where is Brahma? The body is Brahma, the food is Brahma, the thought process, the irritations, the desires. What is Brahma? So to really reach to that, the path, the way, or the method, the technique that has been suggested is neti neti, which is na iti, neither this, not that. Na to main ye hu, na to main wo. So the moment you want to say that, see, I am the mother, so there has to be an immediate cognizance that you are just playing the role of the mother. You are not the mother. And the moment there is this role play of it, that's exactly where that separation from the identity happens, जहां पर witnessing की बात आती है, जो हमने देखा है कि you should be able to have that drashta bhav. So how do you get that? You get that the moment you become aware that this is a role that is being played, you are not that. So who you are, the moment you start disassociating from all this that you define yourself as, then the Upanishad, the teachers, they say that what remains is Brahma. So obviously, being in this ego state, I cannot define Brahma. But I definitely know that these are not something which will be there forever. They are just temporary things. And there is something in all of us which is always looking for that permanent thing, because its own nature is permanence. And you can call that permanence only as Brahma. It's just that we have no clue of how that permanence function. This actually brings me to this. You see why things like gold and diamonds, they become so precious, because for ages there is no change in them. They do not undergo all those chemical reactions, etc. They stay, and you see the advertisement of diamond is forever. This forever word is so important and intrinsic to us. We want our relationships to be forever. We want whatever state of mind, especially when we're feeling good, to be forever. We want our friends to be forever. There are so many things. There are certain dress that we love so much that we want it to be there with us forever. Because that is the basic nature, and because we have no clue of it directly, so we indirectly reimpose the same onto various aspects of life. And this is how we try to look at that which is Sat, that which always is. So the first shloka says, Brahma vid apnoti param. The moment you get to know Brahma, you get to know that param. Now, The next thing then it says is Tadesha Bhyukta. This is what they say. And then it goes to say Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So Brahma is being defined as, what is this Brahma? That if you know, you attain the Param, the infinity, the infinite, that all pervading. What is that Param? So that is being defined as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Now, this Brahma, okay, we know this word Sat Chit Anand, which is very Sachidananda, this which is very all the time, which is used to define who we really are and what should be the, what is the state of mind, etc. And here Brahma is being defined as that which is truth. And again coming back to the same, what is truth? सत्य क्या है? तो सत्य वो तो नहीं हो सकता जो आज है और कल नहीं है. सत्य का निरंतर होना, शाश्वत होना आवश्यक है. For it to be, to always be, is important. Jnanam Anantam. How is Satya Jnana? The Jnana of Brahma is the Satya, not the knowledge of objects. It is the self-realization. It is that Jnana. Self-knowledge is self-realization and not self-attainment. You realize who you are. So that already is there. So maybe I already have a book and I realize, oh, was that the book being referred? Which means I have not to go somewhere and find out. So that's a very gross example to kind of bring realization into context. But that is what Satya is, Jnana is all about. And Anantam, that which is infinite. So if you can recall, we did this Purnamadaha Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamudachyate, which is the Shanti part of Isha Upanishad. Purna, which is infinite, which is total, and it is so total that even from that, if you take out total, all that remains is total. That is what is we call as absolute. Something that cannot be questioned, something that does not loses any time. It always is. We may not recognize that, and that is our problem. That is our fault, not the Satya. So Satyam Jnanam Anantam is Brahma. That is what the Rishi is telling to the disciple. Now, after defining Brahma so much, there of course is a inquisitiveness. Where is this found? Where is this Brahma found? Then Rishi goes ahead and says, Yo Ved Nihitam, this Vidya is stays, Nihit is Chupa Hua. Guhayam Parame Vyoman. Vyoman is Akash. Akash Rupi Man. Guhayam Parame. So in the heart, cave of the heart. That is what it says. So if you want to experience that, if you want to know where it is, the shloka says, it is in the space within the heart, which is like a cave. This also is something that is talked in Mundaka Upanishad, wherein the heart and the cave and the deep cave where the Brahma Tattva is, has been talked of. And why they call it to be a cave? It's a simple indication that it is not so easy to find it. It is so deeply staying that you don't even know that it is there. You have no clue of its existence. It is as if there is some cave and you have no cognizance of that cave, and it is sitting inside there, that's in the heart of it. So that's how it is being indicated. That does not mean there is some external cave, of course, wherein we go and find, but this is about where it is so secretively kept. Yeah. Now, Soshnute Sarvan Kamanasa. And then the Rishi says, if you get that, all your desires, they get fulfilled. Soshnute सर्वान कामान, सभी कामनाएं सह मिल जाती हैं, पूरी हो जाती है. Now this is very interesting. So why is the Rishi saying that if you get to know Brahma, all your desires get fulfilled? Is it that knowing Brahma will bring all the material abundance, etc., to us? No, that is not what the Rishi is saying. Rishi is saying that the real bliss is actually in self-realization. So when you are there, you are living in that bliss, you do not desire anything else, because the deepest of the deepest desire has been fulfilled. And why is this deepest of the deepest desire? This is deepest of the deepest desire because, you see, any desire that we have, it is like never ending. So where does it want to stop? So we always begin small, and then we want to expand and expand and expand and expand and expand and expand. Expand to the infinity. And that's only the place wherein we can stop. And what is infinity? What is infinite? Truth is infinite. And when you attain to that infinity, would you really desire the smaller stuff? It is like being a millionaire and a billionaire. Will I really look forward to rupees 10, rupees 100? I will not. So it is like that big, that if I get to live in that real bliss, if I reach that cave, which is so deeply in the deepest place in the heart, and these are all, there is no specific place like a cave or a heart. Even it's not talking of course, the organ heart. There is no place like heart. So even a few of you might be tempted to connote it with heart chakra. No, it is not that. It is just an indicative word. It is just an indicative word. सेंटर को ही हृदय का नाम दे दिया जाता है, केंद्र को ही हृदय का नाम दे दिया जाता है, सोर्स को ही हृदय का नाम दे दिया जाता है. और क्योंकि हम सब सोर्स से ही आए हैं, we are all manifestation of it, and we are all source in that sense. Hence these words these terminologies are used. So all that it is asking us to do is, if we can meditate, if we can be with that, which means, how do you be with that? You be with that by negating everything else, by ignoring everything else, by saying that I'm not the rest of the things. So if we look at our everyday life, how does this become useful to us? Of course, we are not in a position right now to leave all the so-called duties that we have and just be with this, that no, I'm not going to earn anything. Then of course we're going to have livelihood problems. To us, as I see, what it does is, it is important to become silent so that you stay in that alignment. It is only in the alignment that your energy is the maximum, that your creativity is the maximum. And hence your actions, they become beautiful because they have that tinge, that reflection of silence, of creativity in it. And when the actions are beautiful, you automatically get result. And that is where the bliss also lies. And that is why this becomes so important for us to really know where Brahma is. Why moving towards self-realization is important. Even if we do not understand or devote that, okay, this life of mine is devoted towards that, towards truth. Yet, to even if live the life fully, to live the life in its best way, and I'm talking of not just best possible, the only bestest way. Every other way is just a way. There is no quality to it. So to live it in that flavor, to enjoy relationship in that flavor, to enjoy doing whatever you are doing in that flavor, to be on this path becomes very important. Okay. Now, with this, Brahmana vipashchiteti. So then he says, yeah, that is what he says, that he who realizes the self, there not only realizes the all-knowing Brahma, but also attains everything he wants. Now from this, the Upanishad moves into the process of creation. So पंच तत्व, पंचभूत, ये हम सब हर दिन सुनते हैं. हर चीज पंचभूत है, पंच तत्वों से बनी हुई है. The Upanishad is trying to explain now the process of creation and how possibly each of this Panchabhut actually came into existence, where from the life in its present form is taken ahead. But before that, let me just pause and check anything that anybody would like to share or say till now, that all that we have talked of. Any questions? Anything? Okay. Then we move ahead to see what the Upanishad is saying about the process of creation. The Upanishad says, yeah, Vivek, you want to say something?
I just wanted to, sorry, I wanted to just add, I was just waiting for somebody else to speak. So, when you're talking about all these things, there is somewhere I feel that, we are always working in this kind of layers, like life is entirely in layers where, like we have the basic necessities. And once we, kind of get over it, then we start moving towards more advanced and more advanced. And, on the other hand, there are some people, I don't know if they are, blessed or not, but they start with absolutely nothing, because of which, a lot of times they desire nothing. Or for people who have been born with everything and then they desire nothing, So those are the people, I think, that ultimately are closer towards reaching, the path, I think. But again, for people who are like us, who are in between, it's very, very difficult, to go get into that zero-ness, or, surrendering and, just observing when everything else is chaotic around you. Like yesterday, I was in a meeting where there is complete chaos and people are fighting, and, and I'm sitting in the center. I just close my eyes and I'm like observing, just, trying to, like I'm cool and everybody else is just, so violent, and I'm just, observing what is happening, just thanks to all these readings and your lectures that have been happening. So, I think it's still, I'm still external, I'm still a lot external. I need to go inwards, but I think this is what I wanted to say.
Great. So I am cool, everybody else is a fool. That was striking to me. But I think what you have picked up is, Vivek, very beautiful. I was just saying this to somebody today itself, that why I do these sessions. I don't do these sessions because I think I've got something great to teach to others. That's not the reason. The reason I do these sessions is this pushes me. It's an opportunity for me to stay close to this, Otherwise, in everyday life, Upanishad also get sidelined. So how do I ensure that I stay close to it? That self-study continues. This is the way that I found. It's just like when you start sharing, uh, it's like a moving river. You are allowing more space. A lot of insights will come. You also become silent, more silent, because you are being with the shlokas. Now, when you said that people who either do not have anything or people who have a lot, mostly those are the kind of people who tend to reach. I agree to you. And why I agree to you is, although this is not true for everyone, but those who have nothing, they have, sorry, no fear of losing. उनको ये डर ही नहीं है कि मेरे पास एक पोटली है जो खो जाएगी, मेरे पास इतने रुपए हैं वो खराब हो जाएंगे. उनकी जीविका की आवश्यकताएं भी बहुत कम है. Their needs to livelihood is also very low, because that's the kind of lifestyle that they are used to, or they have lived since beginning. And hence the fear of losing thing is very low, and hence the insecurity. So such people, if they come in connect even a little bit, then Abaji is writing, Indra ka singhasan sabse jaldi hilta hai. Yes, Abaji. To such people, when they get in touch with something like this, like if you look at Kabir, or look at Ramakrishna Paramhans, or look at Maharshi Raman, when there is nothing, you have no fear, and hence it is easier. When you have a lot, so now you go to the kings, you look at Mahavir, you look at Buddha, you look at Krishna. When you have a lot, then you know that these are futile. You have already tasted all that is possible in the world, and hence the need to discover something more. There is something which is beyond of all that I currently have. And hence, but then to both these kind of people, what comes very strongly is they have some sensitivity towards what is. They have some sensitivity towards what is missing, and they are brutally honest towards it. That's a common thing. Otherwise, you look, even those who have attained so much, the desire for wealth is non-satiating, never ending, and they keep going behind it and behind it and behind it. Somebody was telling me a few days back, I was talking to a friend, and the discussion came wherein he said, do you know how much, what is the cost of water that Nita Ambani drinks? And then I said, how much is it? Few thousand, and then it came to be some 52, 62 lakhs, 1,700 bottle of water. Why? Because it is infused with gold, and it is in the gold bottle, etc. And I was really furious. I said, these people they have no sensitivity. They don't understand that being at those places, there are people who emulate them. There are people who, without any understanding, any clarity, make such people their role models. And then they try to emulate them. And in all this, all that they do is they make fool of their lives. I would then rather look at Sudha Murthy. I was once listening to her. Now, of course, these are not the self-realized people, but she is a good example to at least give your life a sensible direction. And she was talking of that it's been 20 years or 25 years that she bought a sari. Because she said, I have enough. I don't need more. And you know that you do not go and talk to Sudha Murthy because of the dresses that she wears, the kind of lifestyle that she has. You go to her because of the being that she carries. So even in those people, not everybody is sensitive enough, is honest enough to start moving in this path. Now comes the third category, which are we, the middle class. We have been conditioned to dream big, and dream big is a big market. You go to every management institute, every second person who comes, dream big. What will you dream? Only that you know. Can you dream what you do not know? You cannot. So how that becomes big when you already know about it? And then how do you manifest that? By earning this much, by creating that power, that position, etc., etc. So everything which is external to me has been made very, very important and intrinsic. And because one is blinded, it's like, drunken kind of condition कि मुझे तो यही चाहिए, मुझे तो पैसा चाहिए, मुझे तो पोजीशन चाहिए, मुझे तो पावर चाहिए. नशा है, और उस नशे में जो है उसको बचाने की कोशिश, लॉट ऑफ इनसिक्योरिटी कि वो नशा कितना मुझे मिलेगा, मैं उस रास्ते में कितना सफल होऊंगा, मुझे मिलेगा या नहीं मिलेगा, एंड दैट फियर, मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा. And all these bundled blinds us so much, which brings me to what Shankar says in Drigdrishya Vivek. Maya has got two very powerful Shaktis. One is, it blinds you. Avaran Shakti, हर चीज के ऊपर एक पर्दा डाल देती है. It does not let you see what the truth is. If you will see the truth of power and position, there is huge possibility you will never go for that. But to see the truth is a big deal. And so this game keeps on happening. So only if we become conscious of this, there is some scope for us, there is some space for us. Otherwise, the everyday Maya stuff will take over.
Yeah, actually, I keep telling my students a lot. I mean, most of the younger guys, कि पैसा अगर होना चाहिए तो फिर आपके teenage और early youth में होना चाहिए. Because there's really not much meaning to have money, once you are over 30, there is hardly anything that you can do with that kind of money. And plus, a person who earns, say, a crore rupees a year versus a person who earns 10,000 crore rupees a year, there's hardly any lifestyle difference that they can have, because the basic amenities of phones, their cars, उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा difference नहीं है. So it's just about adding those zeros. How much zeros can you add? If you find peace, I think that is more precious than adding those zeros in between.
Most of the people start to realize this once they have got that zero, and they're seeing that zero is not giving me what I thought it would give me. But by that time, one has lost a lot of time already in the process, and one has also created a lot of limitations. There is a lot of EMIs, there is a family to take care of, there is a child to pay for the fees and all that. And so there is a need of a regular income, and that keeps one then binded. Why do you think by the time people are in their early 40s, late 30s, mid 40s, all this work-life imbalance and what do you call midlife crisis, all that start to happen? Why does that happen? Why does midlife crisis? It is all of a sudden one realizes that, damn, what I thought when I was in my 20s, it is not so. This is why clarity in life is so important. Earlier one gets clarity, earlier one is able to be truthful to oneself. And that's the entire game, because you cannot be peaceful, you can't be happy otherwise. You might feel that there is a lot of happiness in certain events. I mean, my master would call all this Holy Dashara as the consolation prize. because they come, one does a lot of shopping, the entire environment is created in a way wherein you are in a celebrative mood, you are happy, elated, and then it goes. So it tells you that, see, life is so good, no? And those small consolation prize, it keeps you stuck in the same path unless you see that in every Diwali, in every Dashera, in every Holi, and every other damn festival, what you are doing and how you are being. Till that time, there is no movement. Till that time, rituals, they become important, they stay important. The core, the heart. Because if one could be that conscious that rituals could take them beyond, then it would have taken them. But years pass on doing the same ritual the same way. And people only become staunch about this has to be performed this way. That is all that happens. A few will bend the rituals as per the convenience, and to a few, this is how it must happen. But if you look at truth gives you so much flexibility. It helps you say, it gives you centeredness. It gives you bliss. You hardly will give importance to all that external stuff. कैसे भी कर लो ritual यार, अगर करना है तो. How does that matter if you are seated? But because we are not seated, all that becomes so very important. पेरिफेरी को इतना इंपॉर्टेंस दे देते हैं कि सेंटर का हमको ज्ञान ही नहीं रहता है. आबाजी, that needs another session. We will discuss on that. पैसा कमाना गलत नहीं है, but how do we earn it and what do you do with it for the society and all that. That's a different one session discussion. Okay, let's enter to the process of creation. So now the Rishi says, tasmadva, from that. Etasmatman akashah sambhutah. This akash happens, manifests. Now if you look at the nature of akash, that's infinite. In fact, akash is used as an example, mahakash, chidakash, ghatakash, as an example to connote truth, infinite, absolute, never ending, non-dual. So in the process of creation, what came closest in the manifestation, Rishi says it is the Akash, because it has almost similar quality as Brahma. So Brahma is infinite, is non-dual, and so is Akash. Then the Rishi says, Akashvad Dvayuhu. From Akash comes Vayu, or the Vayu Tattva, the second Pancha Mahabhut that we know. And you know that this movement will be from the subtlest. So the Akash is the subtlest. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't define it. And you are moving towards grossest. The second element is the Vayu, which you can't see, but you can touch. So here also will come the, you can't touch, you can feel. Here also the place of Indriya that comes into picture. I'm just sharing a screen. I'm showing you a table that gives us some more clarity on this. So where is Akash? Here it is. Yeah. So let me know if my screen is well visible. It is stuck.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So from Akash, the element that we also get is the word, the primordial sound, which is the subtlest. That is its element, that is what it brings into existence. So when Akasha Tattva comes into existence, then the Shabd or the sound comes into existence. You know that sound otherwise cannot travel. From sound comes Vayu. And what Vayu gives rise to is the feel stuff of the Indriya. So Shabd is the ear, the hearing of it. You hear the words. Vayu is the feeling of it. And when we say Vayu, we also mean that it includes the Akasha Tattva in their whole. If you see this table of descendant, that from Brahma came Akash, from Akash came Vayu. So Vayu will also have the Akash Tattva in it. And you know that whenever you touch something, there is sound. We may not be able to hear it, but whenever there is any kind of touch, the frequency could be very, very low or very, very high, but sound happens. And we know this, isn't it? Then the Rishi says, Vayor Agni. From Vayu, Agni comes. The fire element comes. Now, with fire element also comes into existence the seeing part of it, the Rupam part of it, because Agni, if you see, it has got form. Vayu does not have form. Akash does not have form. Agni has got form, and hence with Agni, form comes into picture. So, and as it is saying, as it is saying, Vayu also has got the Akash element in it, which is, and hence the sound element in it. Agni will have the sound and the feel element in it. So when you go to Agni, when you touch it, you can feel the warmth that it gives. And if you go close to Agni and you be very, very attentive, you will also notice the sound that comes out of it. So when the fire is ablazing, it's very heavy, we hear the sounds that we hear the sound that comes out of it. But when it is a light of a lamp or something, we do not hear the sound. But maybe it demands us to be that silent so that we can hear the sound. So this is the third element in the process of creation, post Akash and Vayu. The fourth element, as you can see, is Apah, and the Shruti says Agneya Rapah. Apa is nothing but water. That's the name for water. So the water element comes into picture. With water element, the taste part of the sense organ comes into picture. So you see, we have got ears, we have got skin, the touch, we have got eyes, the seeing part of it, and now we are getting the taste part of it. Water, although it is tasteless, but you can taste, there is a possibility of tasting the water. And water, of course, it has the sound, the touch, and the form embedded in it. So water, you can see it in various forms as it goes into various containers. You can feel it, you can touch it, and water also has got that sound element to it. And you experience it when it is moving. The fifth element in the process of creation, Adbhayah Prithvi. So that is the Prithvi, and with Prithvi comes into picture the smell part, the gandha part of the 5 elements, and it of course has got the rest 4 element embedded in it. Notice that this is the most gross of all the 5 elements, and this is how the process of creation of this universe has been explained. And from after the Prithvi has come into manifestation, science begins. So science is not doing anything, but is through all its inventions and discoveries, it is changing forms of one thing to the other, but the 5 element remains. Yeah. Going ahead, the Rishi says, Prithvya Aushadhayah.
Okay. Richa,
Yeah.
I have a question here.
Yes, Abhay.
You know, when they say, let me frame it a different way. जब enlightenment होता है या फिर जो मंत्र की क्रिएशन होती है, राइट, मंत्र का जन्म, गायत्री मंत्र, इज इट कि फिर स्पेस से उनको साउंड सुनाई देने लगा है, आकाश तत्व को अच्छे से टैप कर पाते हैं?
See, when you will go to the Ved, the process of rishis knowing these mantra, and that is why Ved have been always called aparushe. That is a word that has been used for them. Means it is not coming from any
source.
being.
They have not read it anywhere.
Yeah, that is not coming from any being on this planet. They already existed, and that is why they are aparushe, not coming from any entity. So where was it? It was already there in the cosmos in the form of the vibration, which is your sound. So the way we understand that how radio functions, the moment you tune the channel into certain frequency, it catches certain waves and it displays that. It converts those waves into the sound and we hear those. In exactly the same way, rishis who had been in those meditative state of mind, they tapped into those universal frequencies where from they got all this, which they manifested in the form of sound and gave it to the mankind. This is the
so
end.
Om. Yes. Yeah. ऐसा ही कुछ understanding था मेरा वेग. जो Om sound है, that is also a sound which is in ether. आकाश तत्व में वो भी sound है. Okay, and now could you please put that slide? उसमें और भी है ना?
Okay.
Yeah. So जैसे हनुमान जी की सिद्धियां बोलते हैं, वो एकदम सूक्ष्म हो जाते थे या फिर वो एकदम बड़े हो जाते थे. Is it also that he was able to, जैसे हम में ये 5 तत्व हैं, we have a bit of आकाश and you know शायद हमारे जैसे जो जड़ बुद्धि है उनमें पृथ्वी तत्व सबसे ज्यादा है, मतलब मैं ऐसा समझती हूँ. तो हनुमान जी भी अपने भीतर के इन तत्वों को कम ज्यादा कर पाते थे? Is that the way to understand? जब वो एकदम वायु जैसे हल्के हो जाते थे या बहुत बड़े हो जाते थे?
आभाजी, any siddhi for that matter जिसकी हम बात करते हैं, now this is not the subject matter of Upanishad of course, but now to answer your curiosity, any siddhi is nothing but taming these 5 elements within you. When you have done so much of in the process of sadhana, in the process of meditativeness, you come to a point wherein you are totally in tune with your physical form and the Panchavayu within you. And that's where you also get the capability to tame them. You can change them. And with all those changes, all that you see in the outer layer can be done. It's just that Upanishads are not interested in that. Upanishads are interested in the final tastiest ever fruit, which is bliss.
Yeah.
That's why they do not become the subject of Upanishad. But yes, if you talk of any siddhi, कि लोग पानी पे चलते हैं और पता नहीं क्या क्या करते हैं, whatever they do, it is all when you through your process. What is tantra? Tantra means a system. So you tune to that system. You become so very. You have that आपके हाथ में आपके पूरे सिस्टम का ये लगाम है. So
वो जैसे रेडियो कहा ना, तो वो बटन से आप ट्यून कर सकते हो.
you do whatever. So
हाँ.
but then I'll again come to that caution. Typically यही होता है, और जैसा मैंने सुना है और जितना लोगों से मैंने जाना है, without the real understanding of knowledge, getting stuck in the siddhi is what happens with a lot of people. And very interesting, the karmic impact is very high when you have tamed all these systems and you are not in the right path. The karmic account is very, 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 very negative and very bad. That is what people who have known, they say. I do not have much idea of that, and I hold myself there because my personal
I am nowhere there, but सुन के बस यही लगता है कि that's what they say ना, कि गुरु होना चाहिए, और गुरु will know कि कब आपको क्या शक्ति देनी है, कितना
गुरु
फ्रीडम देना है आपको.
शक्ति जल्दी देते ही नहीं है ये, जब तक, इसीलिए पात्रता का इतना ज्यादा भारतीय सभ्यता संस्कृति में इतना ज्यादा इसका महत्व रहा है, क्योंकि you have to be that patra, you have to be that person to be able to know where you are going and what you are getting and how you use it, what you be. So I was reading somewhere Maharshi Raman ke isme that there was some disciple who came in and said, Maharshi, you are here inside in the room, I saw you just outside on the veranda, as if the Maharshi had manifested himself at many places. Maharshi did not say anything. He simply smiled and dismissed the entire thing. Because the moment he will say something, it will arise more inquisitiveness, more questions in the eyes of the one who saw it. And then this becomes a never-ending discussion. So Maharshi did not entertain this itself. No entertainment of any such ideas. So now I do not know, is it about the drishti of the person who was seeing Maharshi, or was Maharshi into like that, whatever. But the point is, people who have been on that path, they very well know what are the possibilities, and hence they will never talk of these intermediary things. They will always talk of the lakshya, because it is then very easy for anybody to get carried away when something of this kind happens.
Yeah, it's just to understand the science behind it. हमारे लिए थोड़ा सा लॉजिक अगर मिल जाता है तो थोड़ा इजी होता है, और हर एक में एक कीलक होता है. जैसे हनुमान जी को भी कहते हैं ना कि श्राप था, जब तक उनको कोई याद नहीं दिलाता है, तो इट्स लाइक दैट याद दिलाने वाले की भी पात्रता है. इट हैज टू बी अ कॉज.
हर दृष्टि से देखा जा सकता है. हनुमान जी को इस दृष्टि से अगर आप देख लेंगे कि हनुमान कौन थे, वो सत्य का प्रतीक थे. सत्य हम सब में है, जब तक कोई याद नहीं दिलाता है हम उस ओर मुड़ते ही नहीं है. वो याद दिलाने वाली प्रक्रिया क्या होगी? वो याद दिलाने वाली प्रक्रिया वो होगी जो आपको आपके भीतर का कुछ बता दे कि हाँ आप में है, और आप फिर उस ओर अपना मुख कर ले. आप किसी भी चीज को ना बहुत सी दृष्टियों से देख सकते हैं, और आप उसको जिस दृष्टि से देखेंगे उसमें से उतने ही अर्थ निकाल लेंगे. ये बहुत आसान सी प्रक्रिया है. कुछ नहीं, एक भक्त इसको बिल्कुल अलग दृष्टि से देखेगा, एक साधक अलग दृष्टि से देखेगा, एक सोशल जनमानस जो है ना वो बिल्कुल अलग दृष्टि से देखेगी. So everything has its perception, and that will actually enfold you based on where you are and who you are. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Sorry for the deviation, but
No,
पंचतत्व मुझे बहुत अट्रैक्ट करते हैं.
Those things happen. That's okay. Okay, so we will just finish off this Anuvak. Not much is left now. Then after clarifying how this Panchatattva actually manifests, that comes into existence, Rishi says, Prithvya Aushadhayah. The earth is the aushadhi, the root, the herbs, the medicine. Because all that, now what it exactly wanting to tell is, if you meditate even on one of the element, you will go beyond. It is about being with whatever in its absoluteness. Absolute is the key. हमारे साथ दिक्कत ये है ना कि हमारे जीवन में कुछ भी absolute नहीं होता है. Everything keeps rising and falling, rising and falling. It never rises so much that it just goes beyond. It's like if the jet has to go beyond outside the gravitational force, it must have that force escape velocity to that level wherein it can escape. तो वो escape velocity हमारे अंदर आती नहीं है. Then it says aushadhibhyo annam. Aushadhi only is annam. That is the food that we eat. Annat purushaha. From anna this body is made. Sava esha purusha anna rasamaya. From that, this body which is annamaya, which anna rasamaya, which is the extract, the nectar of all the food, that comes in. And then it is defining this entire body in a different way. So just tell the meaning and we will be able to see more of it when we do the next Anuvaka, which is about the Annamaya Kosh. So then what it does is that it compares the human body to a bird. And it says, our right and left arms are like wings. So it says, Ayam Dakshinaha Pakshaha, Ayam Uttaraha Pakshaha, Ayam Atma, Idam Pucham Pratishtha. And we are sitting on the tail. So this is how it describes. The tail is called the Pratishtha, the support. And left and right arms are the wings. And the whole body is balanced like an aeroplane. This is where the shloka ends. And here begins the understanding of Annamaya Kosh, which we will look in the next Sunday. Now, the process of creation is an important foundation to understand the Panchakosha, because it starts with the Annamaya Kosha. So until we understand how Anna has manifested from Brahma, the process of that, how Anna is capable of taking us to the Brahma again. So from one process it has descended and now it has to ascend. How does that happen? That we will not be able to understand. And that is why this whole foundation of the process of creation has been laid as to how the Panchatattva has happened. Yeah. Anything that I may have missed? I'm just checking. Yeah. Okay. Now also again, why this Panchakosha is being talked of. In fact, all this, although it is from the Brahma, the infinite, the non-dual, that this Prakriti has manifested, and the Prakriti as we see, it has got so many forms and there is so much of variation. All that we see is duality and duality and duality. So then this question in us would very easily happen, that where is this non-dual when everywhere we see duality? And then we not only see duality all around us, but even in our body, we have different parts of body. They have got different functions. They don't seem to be united. They don't seem to be one. So now, from this body, it is going to further take us to Brahma, and that is the process wherein a concept that we also call as cause and effect relationship, Karya Karan, how everything is causing something else. So where is the cause sitting and how it is giving rise to some effect, which becomes cause for the next effect, which becomes cause for the next effect, and the chain continues. So that is what Prakriti is, cause and effect stuff. And yes, we will look at it, how what the Panchakosha says. There is a lot to see and understand. Anything that's coming to your mind here till now that we did today? कुछ भी यदि आप you want more discussion और कोई प्रश्न है, कुछ भी कहना चाहते हैं? Yeah. So I think it's a beautiful reconciliation when it tells how all the Panchabhuta, the 5 elements, are nothing but manifestation of the Brahma Tattva, from the subtle to gross. And that's a good connect to understand that all the variety finally sum up to the non-variety, non-dual. Yeah, anything? Nothing? Okay, then let's do the Shanti Patha and we will close the session for the day. And we meet next week. Please close your eyes, sit straight. If you know, you can chant along with me. Otherwise, just can be in silence. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi.